The recent stretch of games tell different tales for the men's and women's basketball teams. On the men's side, the Pirates are coming off two top 25 losses as they fell to number 15 Villanova and number 24 UConn in an important part of their schedule. The women's side, on the other hand, are currently on a 5-game winning streak and just got one of their biggest wins of the season as they took down Villanova by 12 at home. So, how can the men's team get back on track with their upcoming homestand? Can the women's team keep their win streak alive as they play two of their final home games of the season? My panel and I will discuss all this and more. I'm Liam Plate, and this is Hall Talk. Hello and welcome back to Hall Talk. My name is Liam Plate and I'm your host. I'm now joined by my wonderful panel, Chris Ellison, Ryan Henry. Guys, how are we doing today?
I'm feeling great, ready to get it started. Glad to be here for another Hall Talk and ready to get into sports with you guys.
Yeah, in here, the new studio, it's going to be a great episode of Hall Talk, second of the year, and I'm excited.
Now, Seton Hall coming off two big losses over this past week. They lost a tough one at Villanova, the number 15 team in the country. The Pirates had the lead for the majority of that game, but of course the Wildcats came surging back. And then on Wednesday night, suffering a 5-point loss to the UConn Huskies, number 24 team in the country. Now, guys, first off, this was a huge stretch of games for the Pirates. Two really big opportunities to get top 25 wins on the road. And, how important were these two games for Seton Hall? Chris, we'll start with you.
I thought these two games were immensely important for Seton Hall because it would have vaulted them back in the top 25, AP poll top 25. We lost to a couple of ranked teams earlier in the season, but I really thought we needed these two games. It's crunch time now. March Madness is around the corner, so I think if these games aren't season-ending games, they're just two losses. But if we can really get back on track, we'll have a great run in the tournament.
Yeah, these would have been great wins to take, obviously, but Liam, you mentioned it. These were two games on the road against top 25 teams. And it's not like they got blown out. They lost to UConn by 5 points. They lost to Villanova by 6 points. I mean, yeah, you would have wanted to win if you're head coach Kevin Willard, but you stay in these games throughout the entire match, and you battled all the way through. There was a couple mistakes you made that were the difference between winning and losing, but it's not like you got blown out in these games, and these are quality teams it isn't as bad to lose to. It's just now a matter of taking care of business and beating on the lesser teams in the Big East.
Now, Ryan, you mentioned there were a few mistakes that the team made that really made the difference between winning or losing. So I want to ask you guys, what went wrong for the Pirates in these two games? Ryan, we'll start with you.
I mean, if we're talking about their last game against UConn, the big thing that stuck out to me was their rebounding. They got out-rebounded by 10 rebounds, 41-33. UConn had 13 second chance points, and Adama Sanogo, was on the precipice of being a Seton Hall Pirate. Brother obviously went here, and now he's decided to take revenge against the Pirates. He played well in this match, almost had a 20-20 game, had a great game in their previous match, and that's, I think, was the big factor in this game. And also the fouls. 20 free throws and is just simply unacceptable, Liam.
Chris?
For the Villanova game, I definitely said we played a near-perfect game. We shot 42% from three, 89% from the line. You really can't ask for anything better than that. But like you said earlier about the rebounding, we got out-rebounded in the last 2 minutes of that game. Minute 54 left. They get two key offensive boards, and Villanova goes on a 6-0 run. As for the UConn game, we just got absolutely destroyed on the glass, 41-31. And the press game, the post-game conference, Coach Kevin Willard said that was the deciding factor in the game for Seton Hall. And Seton Hall also shot 22% from three. So I think if we can get back on the boards, bang inside and win that battle and shoot better, we'll be all right.
Yeah, definitely a lot to work on for the Pirates and a lot to learn from those two games. But, guys, they got another two-game homestand coming up where Saturday they host the DePaul Blue Demons, a team that the Pirates lost to earlier this season. And then on Wednesday night, they have the Butler Bulldogs come into town, and Seton Hall got a victory over Butler earlier this year out in Indianapolis, earlier in January. So, guys, my next question for you is, who really needs to step up in these upcoming games for the Pirates? Chris?
I definitely say Kadari Richmond needs to step up. He's the heartbeat of this team. When he goes, we go. When he unlocks that gear that he has, like we saw against UConn when he dropped 25 had 25 points in the second half. When he's on that gear, we're a completely different team. And I also need Jared Roden to step up. He's getting his looks, he's getting to the basket, but he's not executing at a high clip like he should be. So I think if these two players can consistently carry the team offensively and very defensively too, he's a two-way player. So offensively and defensively, if these two can lead us, then we'll be okay.
Yeah, I agree. Kadari Richmond and Jared Roden do have to step up a bit. I'll spotlight someone else, Ike Obiagu. I mean, this guy's supposed to be the rim protector of the team, the interior presence, and he simply wasn't that in their last two games. Like I mentioned, he got simply owned by Adame Sanogo in the UConn match, and that was probably the difference. And then in Villanova, he didn't fare well against Eric Dixon either. I mean, he's only had a combined 5 points and 4 rebounds in the last two matches. That's simply unacceptable for a guy who's a starting center playing around 25 minutes a game. So he really needs to step up in these next two contests, and honestly, going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, Obiagu and Richmond all got both two guys that really need to step up. One player I'd like to see step up a little bit more is definitely Jared Roden. Didn't play his best game against UConn or against Villanova, so in those big moments he really needs to step up. Now, in this two-game homestand, and guys, these two opponents aren't the best of the best in the Big East with DePaul and Butler. So I mean, how big is this two-game homestand in the reality of the Pirates season, Ryan?
I mean, this is basically everything. You could excuse losing to UConn and Villanova on the road. Those are two top 25 teams. But you're at home playing against DePaul and Butler, who are the second and third worst teams in the Big East. I mean, I know you lost to Liberty and Chicago, but that was a game you shouldn't have lost regardless. You need to win, and you need to win pretty convincingly, honestly. I'm saying they have to win within 10 to 15 points. I know this is a conference game, and it's going to be at least closer than people expect. But you can't be losing or struggling to beat the DePauls and Butlers of the world if you want to make the tournament.
100% agree. I think these two games, or we need these two games. These are conference games. Conference games are always important, no matter who you're playing. So I think we really need these two. We beat Butler on January 4th pretty handily, 71-56. But we did lose to DePaul January 13th. But I really don't see that happening again for this team. This team is too good to lose to a team like DePaul. It's just the truth. DePaul is not the best this year, but I think we need these two games, and I think we get them.
Yeah, and then, Chris, you kind of led into my next question for you guys. And our last question on this men's basketball segment is, how do you see the Pirates faring? You mentioned earlier in the year they were able to get a win over Butler pretty handedly over the Bulldogs, and as a lot of their players were coming back from that COVID pause, and then DePaul. Not the Pirates' best game out in Chicago, but they did start to come back towards the end of that, and it eventually did fall short as the Blue Demons were at home. But, I mean, how do you guys see the Pirates faring this weekend?
Like I said before, I think they need to come out swinging and they need to come out fast. They can't be struggling against these two teams. I mean, when you lose two heartbreaking losses to good teams like UConn and Villanova, there's one of two responses: that you either just fall and you skid like we saw the Pirates do last year, or you bounce back and win in dominant fashion. I think the Pirates are going to do the latter simply just because they have so much talent on this team, and if they don't, they're not going to make the tournament. Simple as that.
I agree. Again, this team is too good to lose to these two teams. They did lose against DePaul earlier in the year, but that's just not happening again. Seton Hall is way too good, way too deep of a team to lose to these two teams again.
Well, there you have it. That'll wrap up our men's basketball section. The Seton Hall men's team will take on DePaul on Saturday night, and then the Butler Bulldogs on Wednesday. If you're in the South Orange, New Jersey area, make sure to get out to those games and support the Pirates. But now moving on to the women's team, and guys, this women's basketball team is absolutely rolling. They're on a 5-game winning streak and getting arguably their biggest win of that winning streak and one of their biggest wins of the season this past Sunday when they took down the Villanova Wildcats by 12 points. A big win for them, and let's zone in on that Villanova game first. I mean, what stood out to you guys in that game, Chris?
I mean, Lauren Park-Lane had an amazing game, but more importantly than her scoring 33 points, she shot 11 from 15 from the field. She hasn't been the most consistent player shooting-wise this year. She had her ups and downs. She's been cold, she's been hot, very streaky, but I think she's becoming a more efficient scorer. She's learning how to score the ball efficiently. She's not just jacking up shots, and she's also getting her teammates involved. So I felt that her shooting 11 for 15 is a catalyst for what we can see for the rest of the year.
If I had to say what really stood out was kind of the energy they just brought. A lot of the big issues for the Pirates this year has been the fact that they've been out-rebounded. The stat that we sell that this game against Villanova, this was the first time they out-rebounded an opponent in nearly a month. Their last, they out-rebounded the Villanova Wildcats. They hadn't done that since their St. John's game, despite the wins they were getting. Like you said, Lauren Park-Lean had a career night, career day. Maya Bembry, despite not even scoring a point, probably had a big impact. Had 5 offensive rebounds, I believe, almost 10 on the night. She did a good job, making life difficult for Maddie Zegers, who's one of the best players in the entire country, let alone the conference. And so I think the energy level they just brought in that game against Villanova was something we hadn't seen all season from the Pirates.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out about that Villanova game is that Seton Hall's defense also was very good. And Villanova, they had 0 bench points in the entire game. It was all just the starters for the Wildcats. And, of course, Maddie Zegers got hers with 31 points and double-digit rebounds. So it definitely was a big game for them. And they had a lot of confidence coming in from those 4 big wins, but those were against, I would say, lesser opponents in the Big East, teams like Butler, Georgetown, and Xavier. But looking forward, this is a team that's kind of struggled. They so far this season haven't lived up to expectations as they were picked to finish 3rd in the conference. So my next question for you guys is, how does this affect their confidence going forward? There's a lot of talk about NCAA tournament and stuff like that. I mean, really, I don't see this team making the tournament, but how does this affect their confidence going forward as they end the season? Ryan, we'll start with you.
I mean, it's a huge confidence boost. I mean, Villanova was one of the hottest teams, not even in the conference, just in the country. They had a 9-game winning streak. They beat UConn, first regular season conference loss for the Huskies in almost a decade, which is absurd to think about. This was a very hot team, and you won pretty convincingly. You did all the right things. It was a perfect game in essence, or almost close to a perfect game by the Pirates. And this is a huge confidence boost because looking at their schedule, Villanova is the best team they're going to play remaining in the schedule. So if they can beat Villanova and win convincingly, they can go on a nice little run. Now, I agree with you, Liam, that tournament is unlikely to just be based on the very slow start they had at the beginning of the season. They've been hovering around 500 for the majority of the year, but this is a huge win and a huge stretch, which can carry momentum to the end of this conference play.
Man, this is an exciting time for college sports. I love it. Teams get hot around this time, turn into a Cinderella story type. I don't think that's going to be for the Lady Pirates, just like you said, slow start. But I really think this win streak is coming at a great time for them. They have all the confidence in the world. Like you said, Villanova is the hottest team in the country, 9-game win streak. So, honestly, I think this is the first time all season they've really looked like a cohesive team on one accord. Everything's clicking. So I think this win can help build their confidence even more than it already was, and possibly win out their entire schedule.
It definitely is a possibility. They do have an easier schedule to end the season out of the Big East teams. But before we get into their upcoming games, let's take a look at this team. We've talked very positively about this team as they're playing fantastic in the recent stretch of games. But you guys, a team can always improve. So I want to know your guys' thoughts. Is there any in particular player or any in particular aspect that the team needs to step up in?
I definitely say Sydney Cooks needs to improve because she can't coming into the season very highly touted, but she's had games where she's shown why Seton Hall wanted her, but she's been really inconsistent throughout the season. And Andrea Espinoza-Hunter, while she has been scoring the ball a lot, her efficiency has not been great. If Lauren Park-Lean has been shooting the ball a lot better lately. So if she hadn't, I would have said she would have been on this list too, but she's been shooting the ball very great lately. So I'd say Sydney Cooks and Andrea Espinoza-Hunter.
Yeah, I agree. Sydney Cooks has been kind of up and down, but I think someone who I'd like to see at least get more involved in the offense is Maya Jackson. I feel like there's games where she can score, 15-plus points and do so on insane efficiency, making 2, 3, 4 threes in a game. But I just feel like she's not getting the look sometimes to actually, put up those numbers. So I'd like to see her get a bit more involved in the offense because I think she does unlock another dimension to this team.
Yeah, guys, and then looking at their next upcoming games, they have a 2-game homestand similar to the men's team, except this weekend they play Friday and Saturday. Friday night, or tonight even, they will host the Providence Friars, and then on Sunday they will take on the Creighton Blue Jays. And over this past season, the Pirates beat Providence by 20 points at Providence. Then they lost to Creighton by 20 points at Creighton. So definitely 2 very different matchups in that first one for these 2 games coming up. So Seton Hall definitely hopes to change that in this upcoming weekend. And guys, I think the big question is, can this team keep their winning streak going? Chris?
100%. I definitely think they can keep this win streak going. Honestly, And to be honest with you guys, I guarantee they can keep this win streak going. They've looked like they're a completely different team from when they lost to Creighton by 20. So and Providence, come on now, it's Providence. So I think they can honestly keep this win streak going and win out their entire schedule.
Yeah, I think the Providence game should be much more of an easier affair. But, while Creighton's going to be a tough out, Villanova was supposed to be a tough out. And they won that game pretty convincingly. I know the Blue Jays have, 3 players who are almost averaging 12 points a game while also being great three-point shooters, which is something the Pirates have struggled to defend the perimeter this season. But, Pirates are hot right now. I expect the Creighton game to be close. But, I can see the Pirates pulling this game off and extending their winning streak to 7 games.
Yeah, guys, you kind of lead into my next question here, but let's take a look at score predictions for the next 2 upcoming games. Ryan, we can start with you.
For the Providence game, I think they're going to win by 15 to 20 points, similar to what they did when they went up to Rhode Island earlier this season. And I think for the Creighton game, I think it's going to be a 5 to 7 point game. I'm going to say in favor of the Pirates, but this is going to be a very close and entertaining game. If you are available to watch that game, it's going to be a classic.
100% agree. I say Providence 20 plus. Let's go bigger, 40. Why not? Let's go 40. But for the Creighton game, I'd say it's going to be definitely a close game, 5 to 10 points margin for both teams. But definitely a win in both, for sure.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you guys. I think the Providence game is definitely going to be the Pirates are going to win handedly there. I just don't think Providence doesn't match up well with Seton Hall. And the way the Pirates have been playing is just incredible. That it's really going to make the difference. And then I believe Creighton is going to be a very close game. I do think that one is a coin flip that could go either way, but it will be very close. So there you have it. If you're in town and want to check out some Seton Hall women's basketball playing their best basketball Friday and Saturday at Historic Walsh Gymnasium, they play Providence and Creighton. But unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today, so I'll wrap up this edition of Hall Talk. For my panel, Chris Ellison, Ryan Henry, I was your host, Liam Plate. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.